Greetings. This is EcoPeace Vision Linda coming to you from Blog Talk Radio, and a lot of times I post the shows also on YouTube, my YouTube channel EcoPeace Vision. Today's show is What Does Health Have to Do with Peace? Relates to health, peace, and the body as a temple. I want to first start out with reading an article that I wrote back in 2011 on ecopeacevision.wordpress.com, because health does relate to peace. This article was February 11th, 2011, entitled, What Does Health Have to Do with Peace? What does health have to do with peace? Over the years, I have noticed that quite a few adults are not very attentive about caring for their bodies, even if they say they like the concept of peace. Let's look at the recent assassination attempt for the Arizona Congresswoman. It appears that the young man was mentally unhealthy. What if he had a permeable intestine caused by eating wheat products? A recent lecturer at Tahoma Clinic in Renton, Washington, indicated about 1 in 95 people have this problem. What if toxins from the food and/or a medication adversely affected his brain and thinking? What if, as the book Healing and Preventing Autism indicates, that males may be more sensitive to toxins than females? I want listeners to skim the book Brain Allergies, written by an osteopath physician. One story from this book is of a 5-year-old autistic girl who made eye contact, quote-unquote autistic girl, who made eye contact, gave her mother an embrace, and made some first words after being on a spring water diet for 4 days. These advances stopped after she was given 5 different kinds of fruit. One of them was grapes. Grapes have a thin skin, and if they were not grown organically, could the grapes have harbored chemicals that created the autistic symptoms? That's my question. Another question is there some other ingredient with the grapes or the fruit why was this girl sensitive to these? And what were these chemicals? To make reasonable, intelligent decisions, don't we need clean, wholesome foods and cultural structures? Does health have to do with peace? I hope the connection is clear now. Please be a hero for health, be a hero for healthy cultures. Thanks for listening. That was made as a kind of a 1-minute announcement. I also want to bring up some more things. Okay, brain health. If we want healthy culture, we want people to make good decisions, have better life outcomes. It can help that we help protect our entire species and other species on our planet. It can even help saving our entire planet, our atmosphere, if we have good brain health. One person with bad brain health can cause lots of destruction, as we're seeing with today's shootings at the schools, for example. So another key element, or I'll start with one key element of brain health, is our oxygen supply. Our atmospheric oxygen supply is threatened. We need to look at our South American rainforest especially, because they're not only getting cut down very quickly and methodically because people there's poor countries bordering all the way around the Amazon rainforest, and there were other rainforests in South America that are completely gone already. Also, look at the whole rest of the planet. When you look at Google Maps and you see the light shade of green, that used to be bushes and forested areas. Those are cleared areas now. The goal would be checkerboard development to where where there has been clearing of trees and bushes, we concentrate human development, human living in 1 acre and regrow the surrounding 5 acres, or protect the surrounding 5 acres. If we can protect them, we can protect millions of species. This is very critical, very important. That's why my understanding is we really need to focus on saving the last remaining rainforests and helping the people economically so that they do that. So saving oxygen is important. Breathing deeply, having more plants in our homes, all that's very helpful. They filter the air. Another key thing for brain health. When we're related to health, let's start with brain health. What I just mentioned, the article I just mentioned, did talk about intestinal health because that can relate to brain health. If the intestine is permeable, which can happen from our hybridized wheat, rye, and barley, which has gluten in it, and a protein I believe called gliadin, when it's more than it used to be. So it is kicking in a protein in our intestines, in at least 1 out of 95 people's intestines, maybe more. That was a 2011 statistic. It can make the intestine permeable. Therefore, when we eat proteins, for example, they don't get broken down. These long protein amino acid chains can look to our immune system like parasites. This is my understanding, and they can create havoc. It can even create brain allergies. There was a man that was given the spring water diet, and then they introduced one low allergenic food at a time, like vegetables, green leafy vegetables, other vegetables, rice, and then they start introducing extra foods. This man really liked a type of cream cheese, I believe, some kind of creamy cheese. When they gave that to him, they called psychotic. He was basically kind of out of his mind. He went in another room under the table with this kind of a food. So food allergies, chemicals from the foods getting into our bloodstream that are not broken down because of the intestine permeability does affect people's behavior, brain chemistry. So let's just keep that in mind. I think dairy, I get congested with dairy. I'm wondering, we've broken the molecules down when they do pasteurization and homogenization of milk. When they homogenize, they break the molecules down, or the long proteins down. Well, there can be fats too that get broken down. Our brain is mostly fat. We have this brain barrier in there, brain-blood barrier or something. Anyway, I'm wondering if the congestion means some of it is kind of trying to get out of our body, right through our, nasal passages. So we need to look into that. And the one place I know that does look into that is the Tahoma Clinic Tukwila, just south of Seattle, Washington. And they have their own lab, and people can probably have their doctors. Some doctors, like naturopath doctors anyway, could send things there. It is run by a medical doctor who, Dr. Jonathan Wright, with the WRIGHT, he went to Harvard when he was age 16. Then he went to medical school. Then he went to residency in the Seattle area, I believe at Harborview. And when patients would tell him, oh, this natural substance seems to help, like vitamin E, and he told his superiors and they didn't want to hear it, even though he was a medical doctor, he decided to create his own clinic, his own lab, do his own research, see what is going on in Europe. So he has been researching for years. He's around 85 years old now and has helped many people, celebrities. Suzanne Summers is one person that went there, and she has a book that they have there, or you can find it somewhere else. This was one of the leading edge clinics that Susan Summers went to that helped get her breast cancer in remission and helped her continue living while she had very rich friends that died of breast cancer. So intestinal health is important. That you can get this blood test by just walking into their lab to find IgE and IgG food sensitivities. And these foods, my understanding is, from experience, you don't have to completely eliminate them if you find that you do have sensitivity, but it gives people a direction to know that they need to work on improving the integrity of their intestine. And then if they do eat certain foods, don't eat them every day. Don't eat them weeks on end, just now and then. Okay, so that's brain health by focusing on your intestine. Now, also I want to talk about Dr. Amin's work. You can go on YouTube and see his lectures. He has one on TED Talks, I believe. After I've looked at what he's found, he's done a lot of brain scans, like 80,000 brain scans, some kind of a radioactive substance that gets out of the body soon. It helps to light up the brain so that you can see areas of inactivity of the brain, and where those areas of inactivity happen, they've been correlated to injuries that have happened, brain injuries, and taking certain substances. He got into the work by trying to help people see the utility of getting off of drugs if they were on drugs. So we really need to pay attention to that. And I then, after looking at that, I believe he doesn't advocate football for a major sport, or having your child in football, for example, or any kinds of sports where you're likely to have a higher rate of head injuries than other ones. Because if we have a head injury, it can affect our entire life outcome. It can affect others around us. A head injury can affect a certain part of the brain in such that way that it can make a person more violent. It can change their personality. So I also want to acknowledge and appreciate the seatbelt laws, and even the laws about insurance for driving cars, because the current future generation should have less head injuries than the generation of people, I think, that were growing up in the 60s, especially in the 70s and 80s. Now a lot of these people are homeless. A lot of people have back pain. They've been in car wrecks. One guy I talked to was driving, aged about 17, and had a conflict where his car ended up going under a semi-truck. Somebody else maybe was, I don't know what age he was, and he could have had a seatbelt, but due to a major car injury, he has lots of pain. A lot of people with pain could have had, they could have been on alcohol or had drugs at the time, or somebody else that had those could have hit their car. So also just whatever we can do to reduce the desire of people to hurt their brains, mess with their whole life, and take drugs. There is a really good poster out about all the chemicals that are in cigarettes. Very dangerous chemicals that you normally would not want to put in your body. I believe one of them is formaldehyde. So if people see this information, posters like this, early, and then there's support for people to not do drugs. And here I want to interject, part of the support can be to support one of the parents to be there after school. Like, this can be an important job for society. If pay the person, even somehow get programs, but to have an attentive adult, more than one. Actually, the school district I live in recommends a team of people around each youth. So if we can have a team of people around each youth, really paying attention, having healthy food for them, helping them with having people around that are good influences, it's a challenge. It's a big challenge. Having good influences, even on the internet or instead of the internet, it's an entire job all to itself. And actually, as youth get older, the fathers and males can be possibly more helpful to especially our male boys than their mothers. So I want to mention a few more things that are happening in my area. In South King County, we have a Health Point clinic that's a community health clinic. They have sliding scale. They take the Apple Health program, which in our state, in Washington State, is for low-income families. They offer homeopathy. At least one of they have some naturopath doctors on staff, so they can offer natural remedies. They can offer homeopathy, which can be very helpful. It's amazing, helpful to all ages, and even babies can have homeopathic remedies. It's a very subtle energy, the energy of a toxin that would create a certain effect. Like even there's one for that relates to helping circulation has been used for people that have cold feet or cold toes. So a plant would cause this on a greater scale, so that it would be very toxic, but they've diluted it so much that it kind of boosts the body into working harder to overcome that situation. It boosts the body to get the certain kind of vibration that it actually needs. So it's a toxin that is diluted in a huge amount of water, and then that water is diluted again. So it's just a vibrational medicine. They put it in little sugar pills. So can be very helpful to, they have them for teething. When babies are crying because of the soreness for teething, you can rub something right on their gums along with your cold wet washcloth. So the other thing Health Point offers is acupuncture. And that can also be very helpful. It can even help like ADD. He'll put one right on the top of the crown of the head. And the acupuncturist at the Health Point Clinic, his name is Paul Griffith. He is very gentle so it's amazing. They're just hairline, the size of a hair, the needles are, and they're in a sleeve that's a metal sleeve, and he can put them in at an angle and just tap it through the sleeves. And the tapping, your body can't think of two things at once, so it kind of is registering the tapping rather than the poking part. But he can also put little BBs and tape them on places, and the idea is to get the energy meridians flowing again in the body. They may have some of the doctors, I believe, are called osteopaths, which has to do with adjusting the spine. I'm not really sure they offer that there, but that has been found in the Edgar Cayce, when he got in this sleep state and did these readings that helped people. He said, if it doesn't help, let me know. If it helps, let me know. And it all seemed to help, but it was hard for people to do everything that was relayed. But he found in one of his early cases, a little girl, her health was continually declining. Nothing was helping. And it turned out the reading said she needs an osteopathic adjustment, a spinal adjustment. And he had a person that had been learning that he was working with, that was helping him with the hypnosis. The guy had to do it maybe 3 or 4 times to get it right. But this little girl had fallen somewhere, and that was the root cause of all her declining health. So this happened with other people too. So it's really important to figure that out. And kind of related to health and brain health, a lot of our youth now have more of a straighter neck bones. They don't have as much curvature, and I believe that's related to the worry of they could suffocate if they are on their side, or so have them on their back all the time when they're little. Somehow there's pillows that can help get that curvature back better into the neck. So that's worth looking into, because all these things can later have us have a lower immune system. The other thing I want to bring up is in the Northwest, now the minimum wage went up. So this happened before when it went up like around 2003. We get a huge influx of people, especially maybe from California, that just move north to make more money. They could have the same job in a fast food place and suddenly make $2 more an hour. So I saw when I was living at an apartment complex in Des Moines in around 2003, there would be a birthday party and 40 relatives had just all moved up from California. They were Hispanic families. That was around 2003, and now we had the same thing happen. And at one of the schools, the middle schools, they have had just a huge influx in people coming from California, the youth, the teens. Well, people really need to know, coming from California, especially if they have darker skin, they need to get their vitamin D, and everybody actually, whatever color skin. Probably it can rain 5 months, a lot of rain. It's not too pleasant. People aren't outside a lot during this time. So, and if people have darker skin, they need to be outside longer to get the amount of vitamin D for their skin. Vitamin D has to do, I've heard something, it can affect most of our organs, or I don't know what they say, 35 organs and maybe several thousand chemical processes, because it's a fat-soluble vitamin and it affects processes that relate to our hormones. So a naturopath doctor at Tahoma Clinic had told me to take 5,000 international units of vitamin D a day in the winter. Now, that was my lifestyle. I wasn't getting out every day consistently long, I'm not sure how long it would be, at least 30 minutes. Anyway, a lot of our youth are in school during these hours. And if we really cared about health, wouldn't we have more of a time to just get outside, go walking, help in nature? And that kind of relates to, can we put a high ideal, or just an ideal, cultural ideal of health as more important than just other things? We do have to make money to survive. We need to make money to buy healthy foods, but also the goal would be, if we want everybody to be healthy, how can we make sure people, even if they don't have the money, still get healthy food, still get access to it? So those are important things. I just wanted to tell a few stories too. There was like a 5 foot by 6 foot, 2 of these posters this big in the elementary school in Auburn, Washington. No, it was in the middle school where they have their lunchroom, encouraging people to drink milk. This is so healthy. And as the Tahoma Clinic has found out, actually the root of a lot of people's problems right now in the U.S., it appears that people, as they get older, are dairy and the gluten products, wheat, rye, and barley, having any of that in there. So here the children are being told one thing and some of the adults are learning another thing. And why? It has to do with the money. The dairy industry gives free milk probably to the school district. I know that the school district I live in, about a few years ago, I was told we get about $5 million worth of maybe free food or from government subsidies, something. So there's a connection there. Also, we get meat, and we can save our whole environment, which relates to our oxygen supply, because a lot of the rainforest is getting cut down for cattle, for growing cattle and soy. Russia and China are two of the countries that are renting this land from Brazil, and that's so Brazil needs that money to pay off its foreign debts. So that some of that food could end up in our fast food places and our grocery stores. Who knows? I don't know if any of it is ending up even in our school lunch programs. But we right now, every second, if you go to the Census Bureau, you can see a tally going every second. There's another person, so that people are not dying as fast as they're being born. Like, we kind of know that. But we're getting, it's like 7.4 billion people right now. And another site I saw had to do with what is the mass of animals and humans on the planet. And we're getting so much livestock. It's way more than our wild animals on our planet. So the livestock takes a lot of plants to feed them. Some of the plants are being genetically engineered, which can also be problematic, even for the digestive system of the animals, which can create methane, is my hypothesis. Some of them have died. Some of the wild animals have died if they've eaten some crops that are genetically engineered. So we just need to look at all these, the bigger picture, and try to have and encourage a plant-based diet. And why not in the schools? And if the money is the reason, we need to align our values more with higher ideals than making money. So, I guess we can pray for that. Let's see. There's in the schools, they encourage, they reward students with pizza and with ice cream parties. In the elementary school, they did that. Even though I was one parent that was learning these are not even what my kids need for their immune system. So it was like encouraging my kids to go against the knowledge I was learning. So how can we teach our children if we will not even talk about genetically engineered foods and try to keep them out of their lunch programs? When I brought this up to a principal at an elementary school that my daughter was going to, he later told me he had his kids bring their own lunch. But my kids weren't, they might like the hot lunch, something new. Most of the other kids, it was a low-income school, so most of the kids were eating the hot lunch program, so they wanted to do that. And then it was kind of an interesting thing when I'm pointing out, well, your principal is allowing you guys to have food that I believe is not healthy at all, yet he's not having his kids have that food. Then that made them think, wow, that's weird. He doesn't care for us as much as he cares for his kids. But then he was saying it's not his role. His role is not over the child nutrition. That's a different department. But the kids don't understand that too well. I had trouble understanding or, taking that into heart, that he couldn't do more to educate the kids about the kind of things I was educating him about. I also want to mention this story. There was a doctor that I talked to, and I mentioned something about omega-3 fatty acids, like I take those, and the doctor said, "What is that?" Well, those are an essential nutrient. It's like a vitamin that you need to take in. So it was kind of interesting that the medical doctor, didn't know what that was. It was in the Health Point Clinic, and I told a natural doctor there, and I'm pretty sure the natural doctor made sure doctors know what that is now. And a different doctor in a different clinic that I went to, it was an urgent care clinic. I mentioned something about intestinal health, and he said, I don't know anything about intestinal health. So that was also kind of interesting. Doctors don't get that much training. They don't have a full college class in nutrition. It looks like online that medical doctors tend to get around 20 hours of training in nutrition, not a full class from most of the top medical schools. I would recommend, if one had a medical doctor as a main family doctor, it might be a good idea to get one that had gone to Loma Linda University. That is related to Seventh-day Adventists, and they are very health-oriented. So I they probably have a lot more nutritional background from that college.